Welcome to the Copper Spice YouTube channel, and thanks for joining us. In this talk, we are going to discuss the difference between parameters and arguments as they relate to templates. Template parameters. Have you ever thought about the difference between a parameter and an argument? We believe that once you understand the distinction, it makes writing templates easier. Default arguments are very common in method and function declarations. The rules for where a default argument can appear in a template declaration were not as obvious as we originally thought. There are some interesting corner cases, and we will show this in our examples. Any discussion about template parameters needs to include information about non-type template parameters. The term non-type is a bit odd, and we will explain what it means. In our last example, we will pull everything together with a template specialization.
The words parameter and argument are often used interchangeably, and we need to break this habit. Both of these terms have precise definitions in the C++ standard. A parameter refers to the variable name in a function or template declaration, and we have highlighted them in blue. The declaration on line 1 has a template parameter named t and a function parameter named input. An argument is typically data, like the string donkey shown in red on line 2. Arguments are passed when calling a function, instantiating a template, or when declaring a default value. Line 3 contains 2 parameters and 1 argument. The value 42 is a default argument for the parameter value 2. On line 4, the data type int is a template argument, which is used to declare a vector that contains elements of type int. Now that we have this terminology, let's go a bit deeper. The requirements for where default template arguments can appear in a declaration seem pretty normal. However, these rules are relaxed when compared to the rules for default arguments on a non-templated function. On the first line, t and u are template parameters, and the variable var a is a function parameter. The parameter t has a default argument of type double. The parameter u will be deduced based on the data type of var a. This is valid code for both templated functions and templated methods. Default arguments are not required to appear on the last group of parameters. Defaults can be used or omitted for any template parameter. On the second example, no template arguments are passed. So t will use the default type of double, and u will be deduced as bool based on the passed argument of false. Line 3 passes 1 argument of type char. The specified template arguments of bool and int will be used for t and u, and nothing will be deduced in this example. We had a place in our code where the return type was a known class, but including the class declaration caused a circular dependency. Our only option was to use a forward declaration. This caused a problem in the template. Our solution was to add a template parameter with a default argument, as shown on line 4. This allowed the template instantiation to be deferred until the full declaration for class widget was included by another header file.
The rules we just showed for template function default arguments are not the same when declaring a templated class. When adding a default argument for a template parameter in a class, there must be a default argument for every subsequent parameter. Since it is C++, there is, of course, exceptions to this rule. The last parameter can be a variadic parameter pack. The other exception is that the code on line 2 compiles, which surprised us. It turns out the default arguments for a class template are cumulative, and all declarations will be combined. So the default argument from line 2 will be added to the default argument shown on line 1, which results in both parameters t and u having default arguments. If you were to swap line 1 and 2, this example would not compile, since the parameters must be defaulted in order from right to left. We also tried adding another default argument for parameter u on line 2, which also did not compile. Forward declarations are not usually added after the corresponding header file has been included. Looking at the CPP file, the first line includes the header file, which contains the body of class item. This is followed by 2 forward declarations. So what happens when you add forward declarations after the body of the class? It turns out the forward declaration can be used to add default template arguments. On line 2, the template parameter u is defaulted to bool, and on line 3, the template parameter t is defaulted to double. Since we are not passing any template arguments on line 4, the defaults from our 2 forward declarations will be used. Taking this a bit further, the approach we are showing could be used to specify a different set of default arguments in any source file. This is valid code, but we are not convinced it is a good use of default template arguments. This feels like code that will be difficult to read and extremely prone to errors.
Templates provide a way to write code without naming the data types in the function. The types will be either deduced by the compiler or passed by the caller. Template parameters normally represent some data type. On the template declaration, t is declared with the keyword type name and is called a type template parameter. When type name is used in this context, it informs the compiler that t needs to be replaced by a data type. The template parameter n is a non-type template parameter, and the data type is always int. The value for n must be passed by the caller. Only a small set of types are allowed for non-type template parameters. The most common ones are int, bool, and enum data types. In C++20, the rules were expanded to allow double and float as well. A user-defined class or structure can sometimes be used for a non-type template parameter, provided it meets a strict set of requirements defined in the standard. Knowing the difference between template parameters and template arguments will help us work through this example. Let's look at the code highlighted in green. This is code which calls the count method. The template argument is bool and will be used to replace the t. The value 5 is the function argument and will be received as the function parameter a. The template argument of bool must be passed when calling count, since the parameter t does not appear in a deducible location in the function's signature. The question we're asking is if this call required the full template specialization. We have 2 template declarations to consider. The first declaration is called the base template, which can be instantiated with any data type for t. The second declaration is a full specialization and is called only in the case when t is exactly the data type bool. Since type bool in the specialization matches the template argument supplied in our function call, the full specialization will be used. However, the full specialization declaration was not necessary because the compiler could have instantiated this code for us using the base template. The main reason you might want a full specialization is when it needs to do something different from the base implementation. For more information about the CopperSpice project, please visit our website at www.copperspice.com.
Thanks for watching. We hope you found the content of value. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to leave a comment on this video or send us an email.
Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and come back for our next video.